Hey guys, what's up? So in today's video, I'm going to be going over the changes, if any, that the community would like to see in Modern Warfare 2. I spent hours and hours looking through videos, looking through Twitter, looking through comments, looking through Reddit. Keep in mind, I only paid attention to the comments and videos made by people who actually played Modern Warfare 2 in its prime. And I took the most consistent talking points where the most people kind of agreed on the same fairly specific thing, and I put them together. I don't necessarily agree with everything that I came across. Nonetheless, I'm still trying to put it all in this video because I'm looking at the community as a whole, not just myself. We're going to go through things people saw as problematic or as issues within the game, and the way they would like to see them adjusted, changed, or fixed. First thing we're going to do is start with perks. I'm going to go from most popular complaints to least common complaints, but keep in mind, these are still among the most consistent and reoccurring problems seen by people who did play a shit ton of Modern Warfare 2 back in the day. Starting off, I'm sure a lot of you saw this coming, is one-man army. A problem a lot of people had with one-man army was you could have it on all of your classes, if not just 2 noob tube classes, and you could keep restocking up on noob tubes pretty much. And even though it took place of your secondary, it still seemed pretty OP. Now, I did ignore any recommendation of completely getting rid of something from the game because not only did that not make up the majority of suggestions in any of these cases, but for me and most Modern Warfare 2 fans, that's completely out of the question. The most common suggestion I saw was taking away the ability to re-up on noob tubes every time you swap classes, or only being able to swap about 2 times per life. There's also the idea of muting the effects of your perks in whatever class you switch to, which would help with the danger close pair-up situation. The last but still a common suggestion was that it just take a longer time to switch between your classes. I'm not going to suggest completely getting rid of the ability to restock on grenades or noob tubes, but I do agree with the idea of muting perks or only being able to switch about 2 times per life, because I think wanting to make really drastic changes in a perk that you're mad at, a lot of times just ends up with a concept making the perk useless, which in that case it might as well be taken out of the game, which again I don't agree with. I think at least with my suggestion of combining the last few other suggestions, the perk would still have use, it would still have value, without being as overpowered as it was originally. Next up is Commando. So outside of having the perk completely removed or cutting the distance of Commando in half, which in the end would kind of make the perk a little useless, the remaining suggestion was to make the melee take longer based on distance. Instead of the lunge being instantaneous if someone was within the proper distance, create a lunge speed that seems about the same at body-to-body close quarters distance, but keep that melee speed consistent so that when the melee is at distance, it takes a little bit longer. The farther away the victim is, the longer it takes to actually complete the melee. And I personally think that makes a load of sense. But now into Danger Close. The issue players had with Danger Close was how powerful it made noob tubes. It also made kill streaks really powerful as well, but I will get onto that in a second. A lot of the fixes suggested involved one major factor: how Danger Close may function with one-man army equipped. There was making it unavailable if you had one-man army equipped, which to me is kind of dumb because at that point you might as well just put it in the same perk category. But without getting rid of it or putting it in a different perk category, a suggestion that made a lot of sense to me was just limiting it to only increasing the damage of your first 2 noob tubes. And if you get an ammo drop, or of course you switch to one-man army, the perk would be void for that ammo or that class. Another recommendation was reducing the explosive range of Danger Close when it was being used with kill streaks, keeping the excessive damage the same, but reducing the range very, very slightly. So basically, it's not as much of a chance of getting a hit marker on you because of the smaller radius, but if it does get a hit marker on you, chances of dying are still the same as they would have been before at the same distance from the center of the explosion. While at the same time, the radius is still, of course, at least a little bit bigger than the original radius. I brought up the other idea first because I think it sounds better, and I don't know how happy fans would be with the second option. Surprisingly, another one Modern Warfare 2 fans have an issue with is Bling. Now, this is coming from people who played Modern Warfare 2 back in the day and stuck with Call of Duty ever since, and only now have an issue with Bling. They are basically saying since times have changed so much, and we have so many Call of Duties getting us used to the concept of having multiple attachments, that Bling should give you 2 attachments, but Bling Pro should give your secondary 2 attachments as per the usual, and your primary 1 more attachment. So Bling Pro would give you 3 attachments on your primary, plus of course the 2 attachments on your secondary. Now, a change like this would probably call for a lot of testing, a lot of gameplay testing, a lot of balancing, and just for the sake of 1 extra attachment, which is why I personally don't want this. But at the same time, it wouldn't be too big of a deal to me if it was added. So whatever, really. And of course, at the end of this video, I want everybody's opinion about all these ideas, all these things I'm going through, so I can further understand where the community is at mentally with the concept of possible changes to Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer. Now, we're moving on to death streaks. Now, death streaks were definitely put in to help noobs, but they're nowhere near as noob-friendly as things like specialists that were added in Black Ops 3 and World War 2. Basically kill streaks that charge on their own. But it was a slippery slope, and death streaks were definitely the beginning. But looking back, compared to all the COD since then, it really isn't that big of a deal to me. Maybe just because what we've been through since is just so much more noob-friendly and annoying that death streaks really don't bother me that much. But I'm still going to talk about a death streak people do have a serious issue with, which is Final Stand. Now, Last Stand in Modern Warfare 2 gives you a pistol every time you die and you bleed out, fine, whatever. But Final Stand, which is a death streak, allows you to use your primary weapon almost instantly after you get downed. You can also, if you survive long enough, revive. And even though you can't strafe, and even though there's blood all over your screen, back in the day we saw this as getting a free kill pretty much, even though it only worked like half the time. And it's nothing compared to specialists in later Call of Duties, but it gave some competitive players PTSD. But I did see a few solutions, one of them being a slower down to aim time. So once you get shot and you get down, there'd be a slight pause or a slower ADS once you've been down before you can actually aim and shoot somebody. I think that makes sense. Also is your flinch should probably be heavily increased when you get shot. So your accuracy is not as good because at that point, if you get killed by somebody who's in final stand, you probably deserve it. Also for me, if I put somebody into second chance or final stand, whatever, and someone else finishes them off, they should get the assist and I should get the kill, not the person who put 2 little bullets and finished somebody off. But I still think that death streaks for the most part are okay, especially for example, copycat. If you're new to the game and you're getting over and over again, by your 3rd time in a row you die, you get to see the class of the person killing you. It was a helpful learning tool. It definitely helped me in my learning process when I first got into COD and I first got into Modern Warfare 2. And I kind of agree with that way of helping noobs more because it's kind of like a perk that helps those who help themselves. Now on to one of the last topics is kill streaks. There's some minor individual issues I saw throughout all the videos I watched and the comments I read, but prominent issue was that aerial kill streaks being kind of OP at times, especially with aerial kill streaks and explosives paired with Danger Close Pro. And maybe they could tone down some of the explosive damage just a pinch, and then tone down some of the explosive damage of it paired with Danger Close just a pinch, while also using the same reload mechanism of the AC-130 that's in Modern Warfare 2019 currently. It makes sense, but it's also a little bit slower, but not too much that causes a nuisance. Those who constantly get AC-130s in Modern Warfare 2019, as they did in Modern Warfare 2, probably know what I'm talking about. But again, this is one of those things that I would prefer no changes be made, but if there was a change to happen for the overall greater good of the community, I would agree with minor damage tweaks, very minor damage tweaks, and possibly change the reload and firing mechanism of controllable aerial kill streaks. Now, we're moving into weapons. Everybody has some weapon they think is OP, and by the end of the day, every weapon has somebody that thinks it's OP. So we are not going to get into this individually. I literally saw a video of a guy from 2010 where he said that all the weapons are pretty balanced in Modern Warfare 2, but they're all very OP. And what he really meant was the kill time in Modern Warfare 2 was too quick for his taste. So if that's what it comes down to, don't change the balance of the weapons. I like the quick to kill time, along with everybody else who's been an Infinity Ward fan for over a decade. And we could point out that maybe the Model 1887 could use a nerf in some way. But that's redundant to say now, considering the fact they already knew that back in the day, and they already implemented a patch for it back in the day. And you can argue that it's still pretty OP after the patch, but again, there's probably some other OP weapon in the game that can challenge it. Another nerf that might need to happen is the sleight of hand ADS speed for sniper rifles in Modern Warfare 2. I don't think people realize, though, that the biggest advantage to snipers in Modern Warfare 2 was the aim assist in that game. I mean, sure, you can slow down the ADS or nerf that a little bit too, but I think implementing the new system of aim assist that they have in Modern Warfare 2019 would definitely negate a lot of the OP sniping in Modern Warfare 2, while also still giving an edge to people with actual skill in sniping in Modern Warfare 2. And then last, of course, is just fixing glitches, polishing the movements to be smoother without changing the speed or necessarily the mechanics, just the smoothness of the transitions between the actions and the positions, which all of what I just said should automatically be happening in a remaster regardless. So, to recap all the changes that it appears a community would be okay with for the most part: a player only being able to change classes around 2 times per life with one-man army, also turning off any perk in the class you switch to. The time it takes to complete a melee when using Commando should depend on the distance between you and your victim. The farther away they are, the longer it takes to complete a melee. Excessive damage should stay the same on Danger Close, but the radius should be slightly reduced. Bling Pro, along with giving your secondary 2 attachments, should also give your primary a third. Final Stand should reduce the time you are able to ADS after you are downed, and also increase your flinching. Aerial kill streaks should have a very minor speed decrease in shooting and reloading mechanics, and the Model 1887 might need a nerf, at least when akimboed, and the ADS speed of sniper rifles when paired with Sleight of Hand Pro should probably be slightly nerfed, along with using a different form of aim assist in Modern Warfare 2. And that's it. All the changes, if any, that from what I've seen the majority of the community would be okay with. And all seriousness, I hope anybody working on the game is watching this. I do hope this helps. I know you guys probably done similar research on your own. I hope at least 1 or 2 of my ideas that you guys looked at or already looking at or want to look more into. For those watching that are just fans, please like, share, comment down below. Keep the conversation going. I want to see what you guys' opinion is on all this stuff. And I will catch you guys next time.